I think Bitcoin, in particular, it has basically seeded the beginning of another revolution, and this time with more about digital money and how that is going to be interacting with everything else that we do online. I feel pretty fortunate to be living through this second revolution, and I think we're just at the very beginning, even though it might seem like we're later in the game. In the early days of the internet, we thought it was so cool that we could get on message boards and talk to people around the world. Little did we know what more was to come after that. Some people had bigger visions and, imaginations for that stuff, but we thought it was pretty cool even just in the beginning. And I think we're in a similar spot here. When we get to the point where we stop asking if everybody has Bitcoin, we start assuming that everybody has it, we start to see things are going to be very different.
With Bitcoin, it's just two steps.
And that's something that you can manage as an individual, whereas, things like bank accounts, etc., there's a different party that has to agree with you that you've got it. One of the most impressive things technically that came with Bitcoin is a consensus mechanism that was created to happen fast, and to have it not require a lot of human interaction is pretty amazing with Bitcoin. Just try it. This is not going to disappear. Get yourself a few sats and just experiment a little bit, and yeah, it's worth it.
Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you are brand new to Bitcoin, if you're not brand new to Bitcoin, if you're medium brand new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stuart.
And I'm your co-host, Anna Bevan.
Man, that's crisp. And we have got number 125. Man, 125 unique guests. You cannot stop Sat Chats. Number 125 is Liz. She's coming to us all the way from Berlin with a message that we are currently experiencing a second technological revolution that is as important as the rise of the internet itself. So, Liz, why don't you introduce yourself to our Satillionaires and give us the hot hits on that item right there?
Yeah. So I think Bitcoin, in particular, it has basically seeded the beginning of, another revolution, and this time about, with more about digital money and how that is going to be interacting with everything else that we do online, basically. So yeah, I feel pretty fortunate to be living through this second revolution, and I think we're just at the very beginning, even though it might seem like we're later in the game to some people. I think it's still early days.
What makes you think it's still early days?
So I work a lot with the technology, with Bitcoin and the technology that surrounds it and all kinds of things that support it. So everything from wallets to infrastructure, and there's a lot of amazing development happening in those spaces. We have, throughout the kind of stack and the infrastructure that's needed, we have still many experiments happening with that technology. And so I think that, as the experiments play out and we kind of see what we can learn from those different experiments, what works well, what doesn't work, that and the adoption wise, we're still very early in terms of adoption. I think when everybody has Bitcoin and the technological stack is a little bit more mature that we're using and the infrastructure is more expansive, then we will see the real revolution being able to happen.
And it's interesting that you say that there's plenty of room for things to get better, because I was listening to The Big Print by Larry Lepard. I was listening. And he pointed out that the internet itself was a clunky dial-up curio in the beginning. And some people were like, this is pretty freaking sweet. And this has the potential to do boom, boom, boom. They could kind of see what the internet was going to become. I was just going on to AOL to update my, my AIM away message
Yep.
and go to websites that had like counters at the bottom where it's like you're the
Yeah.
100,000th person to visit. This is like wow, but other people could really see where it was going.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Bitcoin kind of that is in that same kind of progression?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, in the early days of the internet, we thought it was so cool that we could get on message boards and talk to people around the world. And like you mentioned, AOL IM, like we could talk to people around the world. And we were like, this is cool. This is great. Like, this is changing my life. And little did we know what more was to come after that. But you're right. Some people had bigger visions and, imaginations for that stuff. But we thought it was pretty cool, even just in the beginning. And I think we're in a similar spot here where, we're looking at the counters. So like the counter on the web pages, it's similar to like how many people do you know that own Bitcoin right now. And so, when we get to the point where we stop having counters, we stop asking if everybody has Bitcoin, we start assuming that everybody has it. And yeah, then we start to see things are going to be very different. But it's similar.
That's a great point about just as because I was thinking through. Stuart asked, "What makes you think we're in the beginning?" And then I was thinking, what's going to be the phase where you think we've gotten it, like we've made it, we're comfortably in this revolution, which is now normal life. And your point about assuming people have Bitcoin is a great marker. I think it is something that I feel like all of my conversations now are about Bitcoin.
Yeah,
to the point where
they should be.
I know. Well, to the point where my brother is now mocking me incessantly. Like he picks something to mock me over. This is the thing he's picked now.
Oh, totally.
It's a constant mockery.
Oh yeah, I mean, all last year, my kids were like, "Oh, melting ice cube, Dad. Oh, why do we have to? Something they print for free." And like and Kitty came on the show and was just like, "Bitcoin." When she wants to do an impression of me, she just says, "Bitcoin, Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin." Because you can't help but talk about it.
That's awesome.
I can identify with the way you feel, Liz, because Bitcoin to me feels like a technological breakthrough that is going to be absolutely game changing for humanity and the world.
Yeah, I mean, I can only start to think about what kind of changes it's going to bring, but I mean, because and there's multiple levels at which it can bring change. Like even something as simple as say like convenience and how we interact with money. If you think about the way that financial transactions are done online right now, and like you think about how like fiat is handled between banks and like kind of balancing the accounts and stuff like that, the ledger, like it's pretty antiquated and old. And how when we have a ledger that is digital, like by natively digital, and it's decentralized, so it's around the world that people can work on this, and the infrastructure is more resilient, etc. Then just even thinking about like the convenience of the quickness of how things can be transacted, and how that can also be integrated with other technologies that we have. And so, instead of maybe having to get out a credit card to pay for something, things can happen more seamlessly, because the technology now enables it. So there's that level. Then you think about like the societal impacts with the decentralization and the governments, and how money is managed like as tools through like politics and policies and stuff. Yeah, there's many levels where I think that the change can happen. Um, so it's a bit hard for me to envision all the possible changes that can come from this, but that's also the really exciting part for me, is that I can't imagine it all, and I love that, because that just means that if it's no one person can see the end of this, that it's a lot of people see the potential and are going to find different ways to use it.
It is wild to think about the antiquated systems that they don't feel antiquated until you label them antiquated. Then you're like, dang, these are kind of old fashioned.
Yeah.
I can't remember where I was, but I saw somewhere that from credit card tap to merchant receiving the funds is something like 9 steps.
Oh gosh, really?
Yeah. And it probably takes days at least.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to go credit card to credit card person to credit card
Yeah.
person, bank person, like to other bank.
I mean, on your side, it still says pending
Yeah.
for like a days.
Yeah. All them pending transactions.
The pending really gets
Yeah.
Days. I'm like several days to no longer be pending. I'm like,
you.
dude. And
Make up your
Bitcoin,
mind.
it's just 2 steps, right? I send
Yeah.
it, you get it, right? 2 steps.
Yeah, and we can send communication messages, quickly around the world without issue on multiple mediums. And then, you look at the money system and it's taking days for things to happen and there's crazy fees involved. Yeah, I mean, I think as an American who's living abroad, I also started to run into like even how hard it is to move money between countries and stuff. And again, we're emailing people around the world easily. We're like texting. We're chatting with people around the world, and yet money is not moving nearly at that speed through around the world, and it's not getting settled at least that quickly. So yeah, it was in need of an upgrade. And I think that, there were other, plans for how to upgrade that or other attempts, but the way that Bitcoin is like technically designed is also really interesting because it has a completely different effect on how the world works too with that.
Can you help us understand that a little bit more, or for the satillionaires in our audience who are totally beginner mode? What
Yeah.
is it about the way Bitcoin is created or designed that has that different impact you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I could off the top of my head, I can think of a couple levels. So like simply the ownership of the Bitcoin. If you have the private key, if you manage that, then you own it, and that's something that you can manage as an individual. Whereas things like bank accounts, etc., there's a different party that has to agree with you that you've got it. Cash is not cash is the equivalent, like cash is kind of similar, but cash is not digital. And so that's basically the roots of some of the interest in creating something like Bitcoin. I don't know how much like people have talked about things like the cypherpunks and attempts at previous like digital cash attempts, building that technology. But that was something that people were looking into, well before Bitcoin was created. So that idea of the person can manage it is really important, and not having this like centralized party or this external party that you have to kind of interact with, because it gives you a certain level of freedom if you are able to be self-reliant. So yeah, that's one level. And then there's the management of the ledger, and how it's agreed upon that this is how much money everybody's got.
Yeah. So let's look at that for a second, because if I have cash, physical cash in my hands, like that $50 bill back there, we have ownership of that cash because it's
Yeah,
literally something that we're controlling with our body. We've got it in our hands, right?
you've got possession. Yeah.
We possess it, right? But the minute we put that cash into a bank account, it becomes a number. And now the bank and I must both agree that
Yeah.
money is mine. So it goes from no one needing to agree on anything because it's just pure fact that I control the cash, to now the bank must agree that I've deposited that amount and not withdrawn it for any reason since then.
Yeah, and they take possession of it. I mean, that comes into they take possession of the money on your behalf, and that like I mean, you could think of it like custody, because custody of the private key comes up a lot when you're talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
Sometimes when I take a step back and look at all this, Liz, I can't get how we got to where we are, right? So when I think about money, I think about how it's almost like the fuel for life, because
Yeah.
we work for it and then we get it and we use it to take care of ourselves, to buy food, shelter, clothing, you name it. It's this ultra integral resource that we have as human beings. And it's a technology, right? That gets us past the barter stage of
Yeah.
our progress as a race, right? But somehow we've gotten to where we give it over to someone else to handle for us. And it
Yeah.
makes me it's as absurd as taking the groceries I buy at the grocery store and putting them into a big old fridge. And then whenever I need my food, I go to this, fridge that's being managed by someone else and saying, hey, 2 of those apples in that drawer full of 20 apples are mine, correct? It's like, yep, those are your 2 apples. Like, why would I trust someone else with the management of something that's so important to my life, right?
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that could be like a whole discussion and podcast, even podcast series on its own about like how money works and where these other parties came into the system and what roles that they play. But yeah, I mean, yeah, money is pretty key, and it's this this like store of value that we've all agreed upon. And yeah, at some point in time, it became much more normal to start utilizing things like banks to help you deal with your cash. But yeah, when you start to think back to like how cash is and how cash works, then it does change. It makes you think differently about like how you're dealing with money now, because we just don't really think about it a lot.
Yeah.
Well, we're incentivized to put things into the bank because of that oh so sweet interest rate they give us.
Oh yeah. 0.01% on your checking account.
Oh, so sweet.
And it was making me think like maybe people who ended up getting large sums of cash felt fearful that they might lose it somehow in a flood
Yeah,
or a fire or a theft. So you put it somewhere safe, and then the bank
exactly.
assumes the risk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But it gets upside down very quickly with money printing and loans
yes.
and fractional reserve banking and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it's drifted a lot farther away from what it was originally intended for. Because I believe there were like, shout out Germany, weren't the Knights Templar some of the first bankers? And the idea was that they would store gold at several intervals along the Crusaders' pathway so that they wouldn't have to carry their money with them and potentially get robbed along the way. They could deposit gold at the initial bank and get a voucher to pull that much gold out of any bank along the way to, the Holy Land to conduct warfare against. Right? Isn't that history? Knights Templar?
I
Does anybody
I
know?
don't. I don't know.
I
There are good books on this. I think it isn't like David Graeber, one book, an author that wrote a good book on like the history of money. I forget what the name of the book is though. I think
Yeah,
that's his name.
maybe.
I feel like that feels like a good book review.
Yeah, somebody hit me up in the one of you Statillionaires hit me up in the chat. Knights Templar, were they bankers? Now, maybe this is a good time, Liz, to kind of help our Statillionaires understand how Bitcoin fits into this larger second technological revolution that you're focused on, because you're a Web3 entrepreneur. You're focusing on security, privacy. Help our Statillionaires understand that larger revolution that you're talking about.
Yeah, so I mean, we talked about that one level of where we're holding the private key. If you with Bitcoin, you can hold the private key and you cannot depend on external parties in order to help you manage it. So that's one key to this one piece to the revolution, and then also the ledger of who has what and how it's managed, and the fact that that's all digital too is really powerful. So and programmatic. So I mean, if you have something that is basically this digital ledger and it's in code, then it's able to be synced and connected and integrated with other systems that are code based, online, digital, etc. And so that allows that kind of unlocks things for us. So instead of going, oh, hey, bank, can you, send a message to these guys and let them know I've got money, things that just seem, it doesn't make any sense that we would do it that way. Instead, to have this ledger that is digital and programmatic and stuff is will also help with that. And also how the ledger is managed. I also don't know how much you've gotten into details about this, but this idea that anybody can go download and run that code to manage like a node in this like network that takes care of the ledger is pretty amazing. And that's, one word you could use for it is it democratizes how money is managed in a sense, and decentralizes is another word that we use a lot, which basically instead of saying that, okay, these big banks or these central parties are going to be the ones who have to get together and agree about the ledger, all of us people who own Bitcoin, or people who participate somehow in the network, we all can say we're going to help with the agreement of that ledger. And that really makes the barrier to entry for participation much lower. And so it unlocks people on that level too.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about how as soon as your cash goes into a bank, it's you and an opaque, centralized organization that doesn't necessarily need to share everything about itself with you. You two need to agree.
Yeah.
But with Bitcoin, it's a transparent, it's not you plus an opaque organization. It's you and 23,000 other ultra transparent computers that are automatically, programmatically agreeing on everything. And so it's not just two parties in which the power is massively unbalanced in the favor of the opaque organization. It's 23,000 plus completely equal parties who are all, it's like we don't need to agree with you. We're going to agree with ourselves that this is how much Bitcoin each person has.
And it's wild. Like one of the most impressive things technically that came with Bitcoin is this consensus mechanism that was created. And the consensus mechanism is basically like, how do all of those computers agree without it taking forever? I mean, anybody who's, gone out with friends or tried to get their family to go out for a dinner, it's like deciding on the restaurant or something. You know how hard it is to get consensus with people. And trying to doing accounting. Accounting is a huge business because just sitting there trying to figure out if the numbers are right and everybody agreeing, it's really hard to get consensus with people, and especially on ledgers with money. And so the fact that there was this algorithm, a consensus mechanism that was created to happen fast and to have it not require a lot of human interaction is pretty amazing when it comes to that kind of technological revolution piece. So that was a big key part in the creation of Bitcoin and what it's going to do to change things moving forward, because we have that now.
Yeah. Let's go. I thought you were going to say proof of work. Like one of the biggest breakthroughs was proof of work, because
that's a part of it. Yeah.
We've spent time focusing on how you have to put real resources into real work to get real Bitcoin. And that's why the whole thing's real. But as you were sharing about consensus, it reminded me that was a big puzzle piece that clicked into place for me last year when I was studying Bitcoin around the clock. And it was this idea of consensus. To me, that feels so powerful to have consensus across so many thousands of different computers worldwide. It feels absolutely way more fair, right? Because way more fair than operating in a fiat monetary system where your governing power doesn't need no dang consensus at all to do whatever it wants, right? And it feels also like totally unstoppable. Like where are these computers? How could you possibly get hold of all of them all at one time? I really like what you're saying about how quickly the consensus occurs too, because consensus is hard. And not only are 23,000 some odd computers reaching consensus, they're doing it basically automatically every 10 minutes thanks to the technology. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I don't know if there's been enough time, celebrating that or, talking about it, how technologically that is insane.
Wow. Yeah, now that that's possible, what else is possible is really the question. And that's what people are working on, and they're experimenting and figuring out new things, and that's really exciting. And we're only, like I said, just still at the very beginning of all of this and seeing what can happen from it.
Yeah. So do you think people are going to try to build on top of Bitcoin, or are they going to build separate from Bitcoin to kind of do this? Now that we've achieved rapid consensus through Bitcoin, is someone going to try to, like, I feel like I saw on an episode of Simply Bitcoin last year, someone had a mechanism for committing each vote in an election to the blockchain and
Oh,
saying,
wow.
so to try to like make sure that everything was above board. They could actually, you could cast a vote with, I don't know. Do you think people are going to try to build on top of it, or build to the side of it, or both? Or
Both we see in the space, like that. I mean, Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies. I don't know how much you get into like Ethereum or any of that, but there's these, basically Bitcoin inspired other similar cryptocurrencies to come into existence. And whether it be on Bitcoin network or other networks, like, yeah, there's different layers. So, there's the original blockchain, and then there's, other layers that get built on top, and then there's things, side chains, or something that can happen. You can do things off chain and have them periodically written to, back on chain. And this is where this is where I said there's a lot of experimentation happening. And so, yeah, you're seeing things happen at different levels in different ways as to what they will completely enable in the end. And it's really hard to say, but there's advantages to these different techniques, and that's where the experiments are happening. People are saying, okay, I want to do, this thing, and so we're going to do something slightly different than the last experiment. And then what we'll see over time is, when we go through lots of experiments, we start to say, okay, well, this layer two solution is really good for this particular use case, or, these alternative networks that integrate with Bitcoin or other, other blockchains or something. They have a different use case that's better. And then, different types of wallets and integrations and stuff. So yeah, it's all of it.
I love how excitedly hopeful you are about all that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think you might be our first guest that has that like energy of like what could be, and
Yeah.
asking the question and being open to what the answer might be. Like I love like living in a world of possibilities and opportunity. It's just so exciting. I think that some people, that's their least favorite quality that I have.
is that you like to live in a world of possibilities?
That I like to I'm like, okay, but what if? But what if?
You're like, I don't know what if, Anna Bevan. I'm hungry now.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I know that like it'll get on my mom's nerves sometimes. She's like, let's just live here. We are here today.
You're right.
But I find that very, like, I don't know, bondy. Like I like that energy that you have.
Yeah, I like it too, because for me, before Bitcoin, I felt like, I guess I just need to find a new role every 2 to 3 years to take advantage of the fact that you get paid way more switching companies than you do staying at companies, which
definitely
makes no freaking sense.
Yeah.
To basically, since I'm on quicksand, I just got to find a way to pile significantly more sand on top of it every 2 to 3 years in the form of a higher salary by switching jobs. And it's just a constant need to keep up, because nothing is permanent. You can't store your value in it. You can't rely on it. And with Bitcoin, it took me a while, but once it clicked, it was like, oh man, we won. We already won. We've already won. We just need to hang in there and do our part to help other people come on board. So it does give me that kind of sense of hope for the future. And it feels like you have that too.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. It's hard to say. Yeah, if we're safe. Working on the security side of things, I don't ever really feel safe, but that's a whole different story. But
No,
we're safe in the sense.
No, that's this story. That's this story. Hit us with that. What was that right there? What was that?
Yeah. So, I mean, one other thing that excites me, and also Well, okay, yeah. So on the security side of things, I don't know if you've heard of the term post-quantum cryptography or post-quantum or quantum computing. Um, but basically, quantum computing will break some cryptography, and cryptography is pretty core to how Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies function. Um, which is something, yeah, yeah. So anyway, quantum cryptography will at some point in time break it. And this is where, again, the experimentation and research keeps me hopeful because there are things like post quantum cryptography, and are people working on this problem and figuring out how to address it sooner than later. So, yeah, it's a bit scary, but also at the same time, there is lots of hope to be had. We will get through it. Just
Yeah, I
like
mean,
when the counters, what was that with 99, with 1999 to 2000, Y2K.
Oh
We got
yeah.
Y2K,
through it.
Y2K.
It was
Yeah,
not
it turned
nearly
out it
as
wasn't even a thing.
no,
It wasn't even a thing at all.
no.
Yeah.
But number 60 Simple Steve did tell us during, I don't know, a live show that there actually is a Y2K, but it's just not from 1999 to 2000.
Mm.
It was like it's either sometime in this century or next century where every single computer has started counting from like the year 1970 or 71. I got to go back into our own archives and find that because it was insane that there actually is a
Oh,
moment where the
wow.
computers can't keep counting, but it's anyways. When we looked into quantum computing and number 33 Jameson Lopp, he also kind of raised some concerns around this. But when I looked into quantum computing, I found that number one, it's so early days that the number of, qubits required to break into Bitcoin, they're just not anywhere close whatsoever. But number two, to your point, that unlike cash, I mean, yeah, I guess they're adding some different color inks. They're adding that blue strip to it. They're trying to upgrade the cash, putting bigger Benjamin Franklin faces on it every day. Pretty soon, the entire $100 bill is just going to be Benjamin Franklin's eyeball. His face is going to be so big, you have to collect like 10 bills and put them together like a portrait. Now that would be cool.
That would be really
We
cool.
should absolutely start doing that, guys. But they're trying to upgrade it. You can't upgrade it. But with Bitcoin, you can upgrade it. And by the time someone has a quantum computer that is powerful enough to break the current levels of cryptography keeping Bitcoin secure, Bitcoin will have long since upgraded itself to be quantum resistant, correct?
I mean, there's no guarantees with this, but yeah, it should be okay. Like I said, it's not something that anybody should worry about right now. In the sense that it shouldn't stop you from buying Bitcoin or doing what you want to do with Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. You should by all means proceed as if everything's going to be okay. And know that there are really, dedicated people working on this problem on our behalf. And this is where, again, the popularity of Bitcoin being increased over the years and the reliance on it is where, there's enough people invested at this point in time that care that will make sure that we work this out. As for the timeline, I am not the right person to guess on that. I know that on the side that quantum computing is advancing, that's happening fast, but I also know that a lot of people in the cryptography space are very aware and are working on the post quantum cryptography that will help in all these situations. And so I'm going to put my faith in them. And
Yeah,
I feel that.
yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah.
So if you could say one thing to someone listening to this episode who does not yet have any Bitcoin, what would that one thing be?
Just try it. I mean, this is not going to disappear, and you can resist it for another day, another week, another year, whatever you want, but this isn't going away. So the sooner that I think people try it and just, you don't have to put all your life savings in Bitcoin. I don't know if that's a good idea. And again, I'm not the right person to speak on that. And not giving that investment advice. But this is real technology that is being used by a lot of people, and it's going to change how we all interact with money in the future. So get yourself a few sats, and just experiment a little bit. And yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bitcoin
like
here to stay.
I've said, why don't you just try it? Just get a little bit.
Yeah.
Like probably 8 times this week.
Yeah.
So I love that message, because I think that's the best way. Like, you can explain it and talk about it as much as you possibly could, but until someone actually has Bitcoin, has taken it into self-custody, and seen that the world didn't crumble, and they're okay, maybe they can get a little bit more and then a little bit more. And I feel like then the curiosity works with you with Bitcoin, and probably like there was a little bit more like fire on that, or a little more wood on that fire of curiosity.
Oh man, when I got my first Bitcoin, I was like, these units are mine.
These are mine.
These numbers belong to me. These are my digits. Yeah. Like,
all mine.
I want this to go up. Like I'm in a video game. Like I want more, more. Give me more. I want the number to go up. So, Liz, it's clear that there's more to Bitcoin and this second technological revolution than we'll ever be able to fit into a single chat about sats. So we do ask each of our guests if they'd be willing to come back on in 9 months to give us an update on their Bitcoin baby. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to get into the topics like about like how to help people with privacy, for example, because I think that that's another an important topic around how to use Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in the future. But yeah, that's a big topic.
Let's do that.
And in 9 months, I can't wait to see how that conversation would have changed.
Yeah. What are your predictions for what's going to happen between now and when you come back on the show?
In 9 months? Do you mean with the technology? That's probably best. It's hard for me to say about like the bigger, politics around the world or anything like that. But I mean, we are seeing more widespread adoption, which is good. I think we'll see many more. Well, I think that trend's going to just continue. That we'll start to see more, corporates getting into it. Definitely, like the financial industry is joining more. So I think we'll start to see some more like more integrated networks, like where we see, blockchain, cryptocurrency, even Bitcoin, integrated with more traditional financial institution products and stuff. I'm trying to stay away from what I want to see and what I might think is real.
No, what do you want to be true? What would you like to be true between now and then? Let's hear that too.
Well, I want people to continue to understand more about how to actually use it. So I think it's really great to just tell people, just, get some Bitcoin, get some cryptocurrency, just try it out. But then to also, once we get them on board, to also start to work with them about how to manage it themselves and how to make like informed decisions about self-custody versus using, these other parties to help you manage your money. Because I think as more corporates, financial industry players get into this space, they're going to offer more products that will do like custody for you. But again, like we were talking about earlier in the conversation, that one of the biggest like important things about cryptocurrency is that you can hold custody yourself, and that helping people to understand the pros and the cons of both, and how to make more informed decisions. So, we're not repeating the mistakes of the past where we just, give all our money to the banks without even thinking about like, what does this actually mean? And is this the right thing for me and what I want to do? And I think that this is a really important thing in terms of like freedom and privacy. And so, especially as things are digital, there's been a lot of conversation about like the surveillance that happens with within digital tools and stuff like that within the tech industry. And so, just to make sure that people understand those nuances between privacy for me, transparency for the system, and understanding that that those things need to be separated and informed decisions need to be made about those.
Let's go. Yeah. I like that message. We're going to unpack it in 9, folks. Let's flip it over to our sponsor.
Let's do. So our founding sponsor is Ithaca Hummus. Ithaca Hummus is a 13-year-old hummus company. And they are out of New York. And they have the freshest ingredients. If you are a hummus person, this is the hummus, the only hummus to have. And the flavor we are tasting today is blackberry.
Blackberry?
Black bean.
Black
bean.
Yo, this would be
sorry.
a weird tasting blackberry hummus.
Black bean.
Black bean.
Black bean.
And you've not had it before.
I've not had black bean before.
That's wild.
So I know it's the only flavor I've never had before.
Okay.
And so I'm excited. And since we are here in studio and you are virtually in Germany, we are going to act as your taste buds today.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Let's go.
Mmm. Mmm.
Mm.
Tastes like Mexican food.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It feels like it's got a little bit of heat at the end.
Yeah, how's that spice for you?
It's a little spicy.
Anna Bevan and her family can't handle
We can't do spice.
any level of heat.
No, none at all. My
Not
brother
at
is
all.
different. Like pepper sometimes is too much for me.
That's crazy.
I know. It's sad. There's a lot of heat on this one.
Really?
Yeah. I'm feeling it. I feel like I might like start sweating a little bit.
This is like a 0.5 on like a from like a 1 to 10.
But if you have sensitive to heat, like sometimes mild is too much. If you're sensitive to heat, there is a little bit of heat here.
I actually heard recently that in the United Kingdom they had to start making salsa that was even more mild than mild.
Yes.
Mild salsa was too spicy for the UK palate. So shout out Stagsy, who is
Well, that is where we hail. So it's fitting.
Yeah.
But I would say super fresh. The heat is also fresh. But
Anna Bevan is having trouble co-hosting this show right now because the tiny amount of spice in this black bean hummus is shutting down her central nervous system.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Cool. It's okay. I'm fine. It's great. I still think I really like it though.
Well, next time you're in America, because I know you're out there in Berlin, get some of this and try it. Since you're over there in Germany, were you following last year when Germany itself sold thousands of Bitcoin that it had in its custody?
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Like 50,000 or 80,000 coins?
What?
They sold them off.
Yeah.
For what? Money they can make themselves? It literally made no sense. Can't you just print? I guess they can't. Or can they print the euro? I don't know. European Union, I guess, can print the euro. But golly, talk about a self-own. Germany does so many things wonderfully well. Why would they sell off their Bitcoin?
For money
Yeah,
they
it
can
was interesting because it was at a time where, by that point in time, like there had been like international discussion from multiple countries about, keeping like about buying Bitcoin and keeping Bitcoin reserves within countries. And so, yeah, but I don't pretend to understand German politics.
Come on, Germany? Bitcoin was like in the 50s and 60s.
Mm.
And they sold off like almost all of their
That was a
of
bad
their
move.
holdings. It's at 125K.
Especially
Golly.
today.
All right.
At 125.
Jeez, Germany.
Yeah.
Every country make mistake.
Mistake.
Yeah.
Every country makes mistakes. Okay.
I've heard.
We just gotta be gentle with Germany. Pick yourself up.
Yeah. All right. So we've come to the time of the show where we would like to make you an offer. We have in exchange for your time and energy of being on the show, we believe in value for value. So $50 of fiat or $50 in Bitcoin at today's exchange rate. At today's exchange rate is 40,100 Satoshis. What would you like to receive?
Bitcoin, of course.
Of
Bitcoin, of course. Is that the title of my autobiography? Bitcoin, of course. You know what I mean? Bitcoin, comma, of course. I love that. All right. Well,
Sorry.
Ulysses, maybe if they make your head even bigger than it is now, you'll be a decent form of money. But not today. Sorry, bud.
Not today.
40,100 Satoshis is insane, because when we started this show in January and then it dipped down in March or so to 80,000 bucks a coin, we were handing out 60 and 65,000 sats per show. And you're here at 40,100. I mean, Bitcoin is just incredible. One day it'll be 40 sats or $50 worth of Bitcoin. Guaranteed. Guarantee it. So, Liz, thank you for stacking the sats. You bring our scoreboard to 122 who have stacked the Satoshis and 9 who chose the cash. Ooh. Where can our Satillionaires engage with you and your company online?
Sure. So leastauthority.com is the company website. You can also find me on things like X and Telegram as Liz315.
Oh, the Telegram.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Satillionaires, if you enjoyed Liz's episode about the second technological revolution, smash that subscribe button on YouTube. Boom. Okay. Get them. We got them rookie numbers.
I know.
Okay. We need to get them numbers up. All right.
And the bell. Hit the bell.
Yeah. Turn on the notification. Right. So that you can understand when we've put, which by the way, it's every day at 11 a.m. Okay. So just do it. We're here every single day doing Satoshi's work. All right. Now, we want 10,000 Satillionaires subscribed before December 25th so that we can unwrap 2 million Satoshis underneath our Yuletide tree and award them to one of you at random. Okay? Not 40,100 sats, 2 million, which is $2,500 at today's exchange rates. That ain't nothing. Okay.
It's a little more than something.
You can also support or sponsor our show a couple of other ways. It's all in the show notes for you so that I don't junk up the end of the show. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Don't be construing it.
Don't construe.
Okay? All y'all trying to construe, stop. Also, our guests' views are their own, but I thought Liz's views were pretty dope. And I'm choosing to adopt some of them myself. I don't care what the disclaimers are at the end of this episode. All right?
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Until next time, keep stacking them sats.